Hi, this is Heath from vMix, and I am in Cologne with Bastiaan. What am I doing here?
Well, you're visiting our facility in Cologne, headquarters of SK Gaming, called the Magenta facility.
Okay. And what do you guys do here?
We do a lot. So SK originally as an organization is an esports organization that manages multiple teams in different gaming competitions. But me personally, I am in charge of producing productions for our partners, and internal and external, using a lot of video stuff.
Okay, cool. And what does this facility entail? What have we got here?
So the facility has 3 floors, where we are in the exhibition area, which is for watch parties, guest events, workshops, your general corporate kind of stuff. It's very useful. Also has a gym for, like with esports, you might think players are playing all day, but they're not. Right, they have to have a healthy lifestyle, so we provide that. We provide space for them to come practice. Then the first floor, which is my main, well, it's my office sort of, which has the practice rooms as well as production facilities with a black box studio, a flexible studio, and production rooms. And then we have another floor which is purely office, your classical, corporate office.
What are the major headline games that you guys are producing?
So currently we have teams in several games. The most well known is League of Legends, of course. We have a team in the European Franchise League, the LEC, the German national competition called the Prime League, female roster as well. Then in Valorant we have a team in also the German promotion league, a female roster as well. We have a team in Brawl Stars, player and 2 players under contract in Clash Royale.
Wow.
And then a whole bunch of content creators as well.
So out of all of that, where does vMix fit in? How do you use vMix?
Yeah, so vMix, especially for this facility, has been the core of our production from the ground up. Like designing the production itself, vMix was always intended to be the bread and butter of the production. So it does everything from encoding, switching. Depending on the production, we use replay or not. We play out all our graphics from it as well. So it's one stop for everything.
Some of our users might not know too much about esports and how it differs from, say, regular sport, and how you do things like bring cameras in, or do you bring cameras in, that sort of stuff. So maybe you could just explain how a typical esports production is run and works.
Yeah. So typical esports productions almost feel like a perpetual startup sometimes, where it's anything from the one-man bands, run everything in one show with video callers from home being your casters being the word for commentators in classical sports, all the way up to a full camera production with a broadcast truck and everything in between. And that's also the challenge, finding the right size and functions for each individual production. And that's what specifically this facility is designed around, to get exactly what's needed for that specific day. What really sets it apart in terms of production, the core of it is always about emotions from players and casters and commentators and hosts. But in production you will always have your typical host presenting. You will always have your commentators commentating the sports, your guests giving flavor to your productions. But on top of that you have an interesting layer of content, which is the game itself, which is captured differently, because rather than having cameras around the field, you actually have a camera in the game. So you have separate specialists that can operate that, can give you the camera feeds, and you have to bring that in production. And to help the viewer, you use a lot of graphics, overlays, live, dynamic from game data, and that increases the pace and the requirements as well.
Great. Okay, so what would be a typical very large production in this facility?
So we have several products which we do for our partners, because a lot of our productions are focused on a partner having an idea and making that become a reality with our teams and our reach in the market. One of them, which I often like to use as an example, is the e-trophy, which is sort of the template for most of our productions as well. The e-trophy specifically is a tournament for fans, where fans play together with creators or pro players in teams. They play qualifiers in the streams of said players, and then the captains come here to play the finals, like a full day where we do a sequence of playoffs. For that we set up a commentator, caster set behind the desk in our green screen black box studio, and we set up a lounge in our an actual lounge with a couch, as a studio set in our Flex Lounge. We bring in the entire cast into our studio. In that studio, we talk about the teams, what we're going to do. We send off 2 of the captains to play with their team. They play their matches. We bring in a shoulder camera, wireless, to actually show all those transitions, all those interesting and emotions. Otherwise, it's very static. Then you go from camera, you go to gameplay, and it's like you're in one world in another. We would like to bridge those 2 worlds. So that's something we elevate there. And then they run through 5, 6, 7 matches if needed, up to a final.
Great.
That's one of the bigger ones. For that, we usually bring in PTC cameras.
Okay.
For the studio. So we do the studio with 4 cameras. Caster set is often 1 camera because we do green screen. Everything is running on NDI as well, which is good to know. All the camera feeds, we bring them through an NDI converter into vMix.
So do you use SDI as well when you do your feeds sometimes?
Yes, to supplement what we do. Like the backbone is all built on a virtualized environment.
Yes.
But to bring the signals in, we might get professional cameras for specific productions.
Right.
Those often run on SDI. We run those into a separate vMix box in this case and convert that SDI into NDI there, or we do some switching in that.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
And a good example of like how you could use that. Today we have an external guest doing production. Well, for 3 weeks actually, it's like a marathon.
Yes.
And they also use the same setup where they take SDI into a vMix machine, in this case for replay.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, hopefully we can see a little bit of that as we go for a bit of a tour around.
We have a trophy wall with a lot of the trophies SK as an organization has gathered over the years. Primary ones being the Counter-Strike IEM ones, the most recognizable ones. So the main system is in several layers. One is a layer to the screens, which is visible on the green screens, right? Those are physical outputs. Those are run by Vertex. A step before that is the NDI backbone, which is running on NDI core combined with direct NDI feeds, fed by often vMix or by Vertex for specific content. Audio is run entirely on Dante. At least the backbone is run on Dante, including the vMix servers, which is going into a Waves LV1 for our sound mixing if a production is big enough to have a sound engineer. Those you actually see operator stations planned here. They're fully remote, so everything is physically remote, everything over network. Cameras, they come in on NDI converters into the network, into the NDI core, to vMix or directly. And then when we use the practice rooms in production, we can add them in either with OBS, taking NDI out from OBS into vMix, or we add a capture device there, which is always an option. So, welcome in the heart of the data center, well, mini data center. So this is where we actually have the vMix servers running. Because we use NDI, we don't actually need physical connections to the core of that. The main thing being vMix main switching, doing like 90% of the work. vMix AUX doing the streaming and recording of the main broadcast. There's some media servers for content, and one of them is actually replay. In terms of switching, everything is running 10 gigabit networking into a backbone on 25 gig. A separate Dante switching and a separate Waves sound grid for directly into the sound desk. Here, specifically while we're in our flagship practice room, it's good to mention our gaming rigs. They're very similar to our media service, actually almost identical. Thanks to our partner Wortmann or Terra Gaming, their department. These are actually brand new, spec'd 7950X AMD Ryzens with a 4090 graphics card, and I think these are 64 gigs RAM. Also, we have a housecast called Echo at this time. They're doing a marathon World of Warcraft Race to World First live stream, live 24/7, but active like 16 hours a day. That's why our spaces are currently a little bit busy and a little bit occupied. So this is our production room. This is where our operators sit during production. Usually we have sound, vision mixing, and then a graphics operator here, but we can swap it around however we need.
Well, thanks very much for the tour. That was fantastic. It was very interesting, and hopefully our viewers found it interesting as well. Is there anything else interesting or unique that you think you're doing differently to other people in the vMix world or the esports world or anything like that?
I think the biggest difference is going to be scale, where often you're having one operator with a vMix system,
Yes,
and
yes.
we, depending on scale of that specific production, we can add people. So
Right.
we have our main vMix switcher operator. We add a graphics operator who's running on their own vMix system. If we have to, we get a replay operator. Like getting that all together in the same ecosystem, I think is like one of the more stand apart things we do.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Thank you very much, Bastiaan. I really, really appreciate you having me over to visit the site and just experience what it is that you guys do here and how you use vMix here. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, you're
Thank
welcome.
you. All right.
Anytime.
All right.